Microphones.
Oh, I turned the volume down. Give me a second. I don't know which one to turn down. Turn them all down. Okay. Oh, try volume.
There we go.
Or
Okay.
power, I mean.
Wonderful. I think we're ready. All green lights across the board. So welcome all present. We're grateful to those of you who've seen fit to come participate in this public hearing tonight, which we will officially call to order at 6:31 p.m. And would, as next order of business, begin with our roll call. I would invite you to engage in that.
Mayor Ken Smith,
Present.
Councillor Andy Wilson,
Present.
Councillor Mark Fennison,
Present.
Councillor Joe Scheid,
Present.
Councillor Kevin Flynn,
Present.
and Councillor Justin Olson.
Present.
All present.
Excellent. We have a full quorum. So we'll proceed next with our prayer, which is customary for the Vader City Council meetings and public hearings. And it is my privilege to offer that, so I'd invite all present to please join with me in the prayer. Our dear Father who art in heaven, we are privileged at this time to convene this public meeting and privileged to begin with a prayer, which is one of the great rights we enjoy in this free land and with the Constitution, which enables us this great privilege. We would ask Thee to oversee all of the events that take place in this public hearing and in the City Council meeting which will follow. We would ask Thee to give us inspiration with regard to the important issues which face our community. Pray that all the decisions and conversations which take place here would proceed to the greater good of all of the residents, and that right and truth and reason would bear sway in all that takes place in this meeting. I'm so grateful for the privilege we have as elected officials to represent the will of the people, and that this community would continue to grow and develop in ways which are family friendly and are safe. And we express our gratitude in this prayer and do so most humbly, and so express in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. We'll now invite all present to arise for our Pledge of Allegiance. And would invite Mr. Scheid to lead us.
Please follow me to pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By way of introduction, it's my opportunity to provide that for all present, and would like to explain that, as is customary in a public hearing, the prime audience in such events is the City Council, and they are seated with the sole purpose and objective of hearing comments from the public related to the object of this public hearing, which is a discussion from the public on your perspectives relating to an extension on an interim ban on marijuana-related activities, as is articulated in Ordinance 2015-01. It's obvious that we don't have a huge crowd here, but we hope that each of you feels comfortable and feel compelled, if so motivated, to stand. We invite you to take the podium and state your name, and then express your feelings as civilly and respectfully as decency would dictate. And if questions so arise with council, feel free to expand on comments you hear. But we'd hope that our intention is to try and finish within, by the top of the hour, 6 o'clock. because you've allocated 30 minutes for this. So with that, any comments or concerns on the part of the council as far as time lengths or time constraints? Okay. Hearing none, then we will sit back and invite anyone who has a desire to speak to make their wishes known.
So anyone who wanted to speak that did not get their name on the list?
Yeah, it isn't necessary to sign the list to speak. Do we have somebody who's
We have
indicated
4
interest?
people signed up.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and start at the top.
Okay, the first person on the list is Judy Costello.
Judy Costello, I would like to donate my 3 minutes, if at all
Oh,
possible, for Mr. Milton.
Okay, and I didn't hear that there was a 3-minute time constraint.
Okay, well, we didn't, I did not know that, and so that was my
Okay.
reason for signing up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.
Okay, next on the list is Brandon Milton.
I'm wondering if we might, since we have kind of a small crowd, and I think it's fair to say I'm probably the best representative from, I guess, business interests looking to have marijuana in the city.
Mhm.
Would it be possible to have kind of like a question and answer, maybe between the council and the public, or the public and me? I'd be happy to answer questions if people have questions about my development in particular, or about, you know, what the latest news is and the.
If you'd like to, fair question, public council, yes.
Just this being a public hearing,
Mhm.
this is a public hearing on this particular ordinance.
Mhm.
And so we're supposed to be hearing comments about this ordinance. I'm not sure, I mean, council can choose to do
Yes,
whatever they
okay.
want, but
Good point.
the
Duly
point of
noted.
this hearing is to talk about the ordinance itself.
So,
Fine to me.
once again, I defer to the will of the council.
It's fine for me. They can use
Question and answer?
their time however they like.
I can be pretty specific to the ordinance if that's helpful to the framework of our discussion.
Let's just get it going. Let's get started.
Get it started?
Yeah, stay to our workshop.
Ordinance.
Yeah, ordinance.
I think we've got a go on that. And if it becomes uncomfortable, obviously the council could so indicate, and we can modify it.
Do you mind if I make a couple comments about the ordinance as a way to start our discussion?
Go right ahead.
I can tell by reading it that the ordinance was drafted some time ago, so it's kind of an evolutionary process where I think you as a counselor are trying to determine what issues are you concerned about, what issues are people around town concerned about, what do we need to address as you craft an ordinance or a ban or whatever you want to do. And I can also see that it's pretty well laid out what the considerations are, what the, you know, what problems you see potentially coming to town with marijuana. And so I think it'd be helpful to take a closer look at what the objections are and see if we can get a closer answer to what to do about them or what the future looks like with that in mind. And by my reading, the detail gets most specific about what these objections are when you get to page 11 of the ordinance. So if I can start just by reading through the top of that, starting with D. The ordinance is talking about the concerns being the manner in which the negative impacts and secondary effects associated with the marijuana uses, ongoing or predicted in the city, can be ameliorated, such as the demands that will be placed upon scarce city policing, legal, policy, and administrative resources, neighborhood disruption, increased transient visitors, intimidation, exposure of school-aged children, other sensitive residents to marijuana, illegal sales to both minors and adults, fraud in issuing, obtaining, and using medical marijuana prescriptions, murders, robberies, burglaries, assaults, drug trafficking, violent crime. So I think, is that a pretty good summary of the worst case scenario, you know, what we're most concerned about? I'm asking. Is that fair to say?
That's part of it, so that's fair.
Okay. Elsewhere in the ordinance, it says that the reason that the council has needed many months to look into these effects is where you can see, well, what's happened in Colorado, what's happened elsewhere in Washington, what's happened, you know, what's happening? Is this stuff happening? Is it not? I mean, have you had a chance to do any studying on that? Do you know a better opinion now that we've had all of 2014, for example?
You want to ask the question if we're studying what's going on?
Well, I know you're studying it. I'm just saying, have you formed more of an opinion now that we're months down the road than when we started?
I haven't found, and I'll answer that on my part, I haven't found anything that would change my opinion. If all the information I have found and all the articles I've read and all the court cases I've read have reinforced where I've stood from the beginning. So.
Sure. Well, I'm interested in that too, obviously. I'm clearly not interested in murders and property crime and any of the worst case scenarios. So I've also looked around for what's happened. Colorado unfolded their system sooner than Washington did. But even in Washington, we have months of data now. So marijuana has been decriminalized since the end of 2012. We've had, you know, better than 6 months in 2014 of stores being open. We've seen the marketplace have ups and downs. You know, we've seen typical growth, the market, and issues with regulating and all kinds of stuff. So I feel like we're in a better position now to see how this industry is turning out than we were last time we were talking about all this. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So when I look at the news, and if you have something to show me to say otherwise, I'm happy to look at that, but I haven't seen evidence of any of that. I mean, has there been any? So when I look at D, which lays out the worst case scenario for what we're most afraid of happening, I see city resources being burdened, you know, especially policing is mentioned. I see more drug trafficking, robberies, murders, burglaries, violent crime. Has any of that happened? Have we? I mean, I haven't found a single story anywhere. I mean, anywhere in the state of Washington, that has not been the result of this new initiative.
There's an article, and it was published in the, what's the newspaper out of Longview? Daily News. And it was an interview with the governor of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And his statement was that if he would have known what would have happened to his state when this was being passed. And then he said, when this was being passed, I was against it. And I didn't fight real hard to stop it. He said, I regret that because, yes, it's brought in millions of dollars to the coffers of the state of Colorado. But the cost is exceeding. It's just costing them too much. They're being sued by the surrounding states because of the drug trafficking it's bringing to the surrounding states. They have an increase in crime. They have an increase in petty crime. They have an increase in all the crimes listed. They have an increase. So he's not real happy with it. He's stuck with it right now. But he's not real happy with it. And that's after more than a year or so of having it approved in their state. Now, I didn't bring the article, but I can get the article. That's not a problem.
Well, I can look it up too. It's not easy. It's hard to, you know, it's easy to find an article. I mean, when I've read about Colorado, I've seen their crime is actually down. So, you know, absent that information, it's kind of hard to argue yes or no. I mean, there are a lot. It's clear there are a lot of opinions. You know, whether we want it, don't want it.
Well, that's not an
whether we
opinion.
agree with it.
That's from the governor of the state of Colorado. That's not an opinion.
That is an opinion. It's the governor's opinion. So, you know, what I'm talking about is, do we have any evidence that the stuff we're afraid of has that happened?
Wouldn't you say that he's in a better position to make that opinion than most?
I'd say he's in a great position to have an opinion about Colorado, absolutely.
I mean, in regard to what he's saying, I mean, he's the chief officer of the state. That would be pretty bad on his part to go out and spread things that are not true like that in a public article.
You can't really have an untrue opinion, so I'm not trying to disagree with anybody's opinion. Kevin's welcome his opinion, I value Kevin's opinion. I'm not trying to disagree with your opinion, everybody's welcome to that. I'm trying to just get at, do the numbers, does the information we have now that we didn't have the last time we visited this, does that support what we've been concerned about or not? So,
If council would beg to defer, I mean, I historically would prefer not to interject in, but I think we've been asked to provide any clarifying data, and Mr. Flynn, I think, shared his response to that, but I've got to interject here just as a matter of general edification that it was 4 or 5 days ago I was on the internet and I saw this article that got my eye because we're dealing with this issue, and the headline caught my attention because it indicated that new medical research indicates alarming new evidence indicating, it wasn't that long a headline, but that scientific research is indicating that discovering that preteen and early teen use of marijuana has been tested to have a greater negative impact on brain development in young teens than previously thought. So I looked it up and just skimmed it, and it was a scientific study that was done, and it was alarming because they hadn't discerned that marijuana, being as mild a drug as it is, would actually have a physiological impact on the developing brain. So I'm sitting here thinking, we're looking for that. That was something that I think was a bona fide research study. I read it 4 days ago. So how would you respond? That is part of one of the, you said that school-age children and concerns of other sensitive residents to marijuana. For me, that may be something the council would consider as factual.
I really don't think we've had sufficient time to see what the results will be. I think probably we're going to have to wait and over a longer period than a few months or a year to find out exactly if children are getting a hold of it secondhand from those who are adults, and then what the impact of that is.
you guys do understand that I'm not proposing to sell marijuana in Vader. You know, I'm a producer, I'm not a retailer. In fact, it's illegal for me to be both. So, and one other thing I should clarify is that in the state of Washington and other places, this is not a product that is legal for children or teenagers to use. So I think it's been well recognized that one of the values that even proponents of this legalized marijuana system, we all share the value that this isn't an appropriate product for children.
Neither is alcohol or cigarettes, and I want to show you how many kids run around smoking cigarettes. And I don't watch them drink, but there's a lot of beer cans being thrown around by teenagers. So
That's regrettable, but that's not necessarily, I have a feeling that that's more at the family level, or at, you know, that's as a city, you know.
That's impact.
Well, as a city then, do you ban alcohol? Do you ban cigarettes? You know, do you make that illegal here too? Because there's a possibility that can get into a child's hand.
Well, personally, if someone was coming here to start a business like that in this city, I would oppose it, yes.
Well, you guys are selling it in your city limits at a convenience store. So, you know, if you are concerned about that, then it's weird to me that it's legal here for everybody to sell or retail.
Well, I don't think anybody's trying to open up or start a distribution center in the city of Vader. That's a little bit different.
Well, if I was worried about the risk of a child or a teenager getting hold of an adult product, I'd be more concerned about proximity to a retailing center than I would a distribution or production center. You know, where you buy it is a point of access for a customer, whether that's underage or above age. So that seems like common sense to me.
I know that we had two other members of the public that did raise their hand. So perhaps it was Judy and then Phil.
Oh, it was
Judy.
Jeff? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand raised.
Gentleman had his hand
Oh,
up.
me or this gentleman?
Phil.
Well, okay, he touched on the point I wanted to bring out, that criminal behavior is criminal behavior. One of the reasons for advocating legalizing cannabis is that it gives a better handle on controlling access, especially to underage kids. I didn't particularly use drugs when I was growing up, but I knew it was easier to buy cannabis or marijuana than it was to get booze. You had to steal booze from your parents. You could buy cannabis from the druggie down the road. Now, I didn't participate in either one of them, but that was a reality, and that's one of the proponents of having cannabis legalized, is that you get better control.
That's an excellent point. In fact, that's one of the main reasons for legalizing, is that you take this product out of the hands of illegal operators and you put it into the hands of legal, above board business people that are remitting tax money to the state and regulating it. I mean, it's a safer product. It's tested. It's regulated, and you know, it's one of the things that struck me as odd that this ordinance talks equally about the importance of being wary to legalize recreational marijuana, but also to medical marijuana. That's kind of a quasi gray area. There's a fair amount of that around Vader, and I don't see that there's any effort on the part of the city to do anything about that. I mean, it's in the ordinance, but I see houses burning down, I see people growing marijuana around town, and that's apparently, I mean, what do we think about that? I mean, if I was very concerned about keeping that away from a sensitive neighbor or an underage kid in town, I'd be more comfortable having that be behind a fence in a regulated, state-sanctioned, legal enterprise than I would my next door neighbor. So we can say that, I think.
Excuse me, Diane. I just kind of wanted to touch upon that subject now that it's been opened up. This can's been opened, people. What are we going to do then if you are going to ban this for 6 more months? Because for the last year, we have been very active on A Street, selling it, growing it, distributing it, bartering with it, exchanging it, delivering it, storing it. How are we going to enforce this if you did in fact do this?
That's the law right now. It's not about, if they vote on this, they're voting to continue. It's
Right,
already in place.
see, I guess that's it. We're doing a double standard of recreation, recreational wanting to be legal down on the corner doing his thing, and yet we have this going on in our community, people, all over.
Well, I'm chomping at the bit to respond.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Jump right in there, Ken.
I know I'm going to defer to Mr.
Somebody
Wilson.
else, okay?
Yeah, because there's an easy answer to it, I believe.
Oh,
At one time, I didn't care about people growing marijuana for medical purposes for themselves. But when it comes to the policy that you're finding people that have the ticket to grow marijuana, medical marijuana for themselves, that was fine. But now it seems as if they care less. Anybody today is making candy out of it, everything else. And I am against this because we've had a lot of problems. I have to go way back in the probation days where I was born. And it took a lot of the communities when alcohol was allowed to stop it. And they finally did stop it, that very little alcohol except moonshiners. There you are again. But now, with people making candy out of it, give it to little kids because, oh, this is my little baby. Give them marijuana candy. I'm completely against it. And because I don't believe in it anymore because of what's happened. I don't want to see my great-great-grandkids, which I won't be around, growing up with the bad marijuana policy, period. And that's the way I feel today.
So we've had the two more, and then we'll go.
Okay. In Los Angeles, which is a very, very large city, very powerful city government, they basically told the communities that have been overrun with medical marijuana shops, which is, they have to have a license, they have to be regulated. They have been so overrun in these used to be nice communities, family restaurants, little stores, that these people are going out of business because they can't compete with the drug traffic that's coming into the cities in these areas. The people buy the medical marijuana, and many of them, not all, many of them sell it to other people with drug problems. So they don't want to go to the mom and pop Mexican restaurant anymore, the regular people. And this has been going on, and I have firsthand knowledge of this. These people have gone and pleaded with the City Council of Los Angeles. We're talking big bucks. And they basically have said, we can't do anything because they will sue us. They will sue the city of LA because they're going to shut down their marijuana shops. I can't say this more strongly. Once you let these type of industries in, you will never get them out, and we don't have the money to fight them. And we won't be any richer. If we were going to be richer by doing stuff like this, the lottery would have brought so much money into the schools that they'd be having to have meetings to decide how to spend the money. But no, they're pleading with us for money. Okay, so when you go in for this thing where you're going to have booze or pot, I don't care how many people you have smoking pot, there maybe makes a few individuals wealthy and put some money in there, but the community will pay for it. And once they get in, you're not ever going to get them out again. And it's only going to encourage other businesses like it. There will be distribution centers selling to the public in Vader because other type of businesses won't want to come here. We're too small. We're tiny. We have no other part of town. Thank you.
Okay. We have a comment here, front row.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm doing something I wouldn't ordinarily do, but I found a way of turning a problem into an asset. Form a city license in order to grow marijuana because it's already here anyway. Believe me, it's all over town.
We know that.
All right. Make it a city law or whatever to where they have to come buy a license from City Hall and pay a considerable amount for it. I don't know what your bank account is like right now, but this would turn a problem into an asset for you. It would put money in the bank and you would probably be happier with the situation than you're going to be when you finally make a decision to try not to have it in town, because like I said, it's already here.
Yeah. You know, what's happening in town, what's happening on A Street is a law enforcement problem. It's not a city council problem. We don't enforce laws here.
I know that.
What we do is legislate the laws. The sheriff's department is the one to carry it out. So if crime is being committed, that's not a city council problem. That's a law enforcement problem.
But either way, you don't.
And if you start,
Seed from it, you don't make any money off of it.
well, it's more the money that's made off of it, so that's the problem. It's the consequences down the road, and money's not worth it in my opinion.
Mark, I choose to disagree with you on that.
Please, go ahead. Okay, it's 6:02. Go for 3 more minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm still waiting to hear the answer,
Oh, okay.
and you were gonna say it.
All right. But it's a public meeting. I might have the last word if council so defers, but yes.
A couple of things I want to bring out. One, that there's a bill proposed currently, and I don't know what position it's in Olympia, but they're proposing bills which share pot taxes with cities and counties, but only if they allow it within their jurisdictions. It would be 1/3 of the tax revenue generated. It's in the, this is from the Daily News a few days ago. Also, one of the things that I was struck by on some of the conversations I had is the belief that pot is somehow banned by the Bible or a religious belief. And the reality is it really isn't. I've studied the Bible and I haven't been able to find it. And there are some statements in the Bible that says that if you you say something God puts a ban on something, and it isn't from God, your ban's going to fail. And those who put words in God's mouth are in for a problem. So I don't think it's a good idea along that line. We are also understand that there's a lot of usage for marijuana. In the relationship with this ordinance, this gentleman is only producing it here. It will be packaged and be removed from the place. It won't be distributed here, and it won't be sold here. Okay, so those are things that he effectively won't change what is. It just won't. So that's my piece. Thank you.
So
I have one question.
okay, well, let's see, get your...
I have a question. So in numerous cases from these large-scale grow operations, there have been large surrounding areas that have been affected by odors that are traveling out of these large-scale grows. If you look in the media, it doesn't take long to find them. The areas affected are easily the size of the Vader city limits. So just having a fence doesn't necessarily keep those in unless you have extreme protections to keep the odors isolated inside your building. It's a huge risk to the livability of the city of Vader to have these. The current air quality controls that would be required in Washington are the same as in the other states that have had these problems, and these grows are allowed to continue. It's hard to regulate the odors and track them and everything. What can you speak to those issues? We talk about this neighborhood disruption, exposure to sensitive residences. Everyone in the entire city could be affected by ongoing odors constantly. It could decimate the city if it got out of control.
That's a reasonable point, and that's in the category of what I'm just going to term regulation. So what we're talking now in broad terms is, do we ban it from the city? You know, it's this legal product. Does anyone think that we're going to roll back this law? I mean, I know you guys don't like it. So even looking at it from your perspective, like, let's just say none of us in this room like pot at all. But if we can't change that, if we can't make that illegal again, clearly you can't keep it out of town. We've all kind of agreed it's everywhere. So the question then I think becomes, if you can't get rid of it, would it not then be better to regulate it? So let's talk about air quality. Let's talk about filters on the building to mitigate any kind of smell coming out of there. So let's just make that not an issue. There are ways you can cancel that out. Those are the kind of things that I think we could do an effective job of partnering and regulating to make sure that the city and people living in the city get what's important to them, but also have this legal product. I mean, if you can't get it out of your town, wouldn't you want to see the benefit of it? I mean, wouldn't you want to see the money from it? I mean, I've heard, Mark said it's not just about the money. Well, we've got a money problem here. I mean, the money, it's hard to overlook the money. We said earlier, well, it's up to the county because they're the police. Well, why is that? I mean, that goes back to money. The reason we don't have our own police anymore is about the money. I mean, I've been here long enough to see us lose a lot of stuff because we don't have the money to do it. We didn't have the money to keep up the water, so we lost the water. We're struggling to pay for sewer now. I mean, we have all these things. Well, we used to have a police house right here, fire department. I mean, these are things that money solves. So yeah, it would be nice to have more money in City Hall, and with that money, the council then has the ability to make some difference in some issues.
But if we alienate 50% of the residents that live here so that they don't want to live here anymore, and then the rest of them that were okay with having it here initially change their mind because they can't sit on their back porch anymore because the odors are coming up from down below. What have we gained if we have all this money if no one wants to live here?
Well, I think you can say on the flip side, if you can become a center of job creation and you can have family wage jobs and people that have if we bring industry to this town, we need tax base, we need industry. I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree with the assertion that we can't build our tax base without some kind of jobs and industry around here. So we need that desperately, and yet here's this golden opportunity to seize that, and and we're not grabbing it. So I'd like to see us grab that and then regulate it. I don't mind being regulated. I'm a responsible player. I want to see the town do well. I want to see my business do well. I want to see people be happy here. But I think the reality is much different from the picture you painted. So imagine if we have a center of job creation with family wage jobs, what is that going to do? I mean, the answer to that is people are going to move here. And I think the other thing that's a lot of common ground that we all share is that we want the right people in Vader. We're a very family-focused place. We want to see good quality families filling in our town. But how are you supposed to convince a good quality family to want to move to Vader when we don't have a school? What of our, we have expensive utilities. We have an unknown with sewer. We don't own our water department anymore. Where's the nearest fire truck? Our police is outsourced. I mean, how do we, that doesn't contribute to trying to bring good quality families into Vader. What does bring a good quality family into Vader is a good job. So how many people are in Vader right now that would like a good quality job that can pay them better? How many people might want to not commute an hour each day to get to somewhere where they could work? How many people would move here from a place nearby or far away even to have that job and to live here and work here? Those are the families that you want here. And the more families that move here like that, the more tax base is here. People have money to spend, they spend it in their community. I mean, that's how it all starts. So
Brandon, I can't keep my mouth shut any longer.
Okay. It's council's meeting. We've gone 10 minutes over the time. I'd invite the council to make a decision with regard to the termination time.
Oh.
And then, in so doing, perhaps allocate whatever response you might feel
Well,
inclined to make.
may I ask, do you think you've presented your case well enough?
I've got plenty more I could say. I want to be sensitive to your time constraints, but I'm certainly available to answer more questions or tell you more if you like.
I think we've spent enough time. We've allotted more time than we originally allowed. There's no information being presented.
Okay.
And a lot of the stuff we're being told is fairy tales. And if I have to go get this data, I will. I'll go get the data and bring in proof. This is not true.
Let's make a time set here. I get a sense that enough time has
I
been.
would like to just get up and read this article. It is data.
The council is,
Okay.
the council is going to decide. Do you want to go 5 more minutes and then a definitive cutoff at 6:15?
6:15.
6:15, it's done.
Okay. It is the opportunity for the council to hear. I know that you're chomping at the bits. I'm chomping at the bits. I've been invited to provide a commentary, but I think we need to hear what you're saying. So
I'll keep
I
my mouth
have
shut.
the job of moderating. So should we hear this gentleman in the gray sweatshirt?
Go ahead.
Yes, I can. I've got an article here. It's by David Downs. I don't know who he writes for, but the title is Colorado Legalization Report Card. No impact on crime or teen use. 84 million in taxes. Jeffrey Myron, a noted Harvard University economist and director of economic studies at the Cato Institute, released a working paper Thursday disproving critics of Colorado's legalization. Myron also stated that legalization's proponents overestimated the tax revenue and economic benefits of legalization. Before Colorado voted in 2012 to become the first state in history to legalize cannabis, law enforcement officials and politicians promised the worst. Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper said the number of children using drugs would increase. Former Attorney General Edwin Meese and Charles Stimson argued violent crime would surge. Kevin Sabat and former senior White House drug policy advisor warned of high addiction rates, spikes in traffic accidents, and reductions in IQ. Former DEA Director John Walters claimed what we see in Colorado has the markings of a drug use epidemic. And Jack Healy and Josh Voorhees said marijuana is the drug most often linked to crime. They were wrong. Myron reviewed 15 years worth of public health and safety data spanning the rise and explosion of medical cannabis in Colorado by 2010, followed by its 2012 legalization. He found that the most important outcome of marijuana policy is marijuana use. Among high school students, the overall trend is downward and not materially affected by the changes in marijuana policy. These results provide little indication that marijuana or other substance use changed in Colorado after commercialization of medical marijuana in 2009. As for crime, Myron states that no measure indicates a significant change in crime after medical marijuana commercialization, legalization, adoption, or full legalization implementation. What about traffic accidents? No measure exhibits a substantial change at the time of marijuana policy changes. Emergency room admissions, no change in trend is evident after medical marijuana introduction or commercialization. And the high school dropout rate, the rate is little different between the beginning and end of the sample. The 4-year graduation rate shows an upward trend that slows slightly between 2012 and 2013. Reports of weed suspensions did jump amid a change in weed laws, but many school administrators started tracking weed-related suspensions for the first time.
Okay, 30, 40 seconds.
Okay, so Myron said that annual cannabis tax revenues of 84 million were lower than earlier estimates of 134 million. And Colorado hasn't saved any money on courts and prisons. Neither judicial or legal employment nor corrections employment shows any meaningful change after a marijuana policy change. Legal cannabis has not amounted to an economic game changer, and for state gross domestic product and personal income, neither indicates any effect of policy changes. Bottom line, don't believe the hype for or against legalization, Myron writes. The evidence here indicates that strong claims about Colorado's legalization, whether by advocates or opponents, are so far devoid of empirical support.
Perfect timing. With that, I would gavel this public hearing to a
Address
close.
Judy's question? Would you address Judy's question about A Street?
Would council grant me?
An answer, yes.
Okay, 2 minutes. I can tell you that I personally rankle when I hear a perpetuation of the urban mythology that marijuana is being grown anywhere within public knowledge of the elected officials, and particularly the mayor of the city of Vader. I work very closely with the Lewis County Sheriff's Department, which is providing us considerable legal and law enforcement coverage. When we get information indicating that there is a grow operation, they will go in and they will confirm whether or not they have legal licensing ability, which is empowered in the state. And they will ensure that they meet those criteria. The ordinance doesn't preclude a person from growing their legal plants in it. But I defy anybody to convey to me evidence that there is illegal growing operation going on in the city of Vader. And where we have learned that, we have targeted law enforcement coverage on them. And to say that everybody's doing that in the city of Vader is just to perpetuate a myth. And plus, excellent, and I would say that the vast majority of the residents of Vader are abiding by the law and are not supportive of it. Plus, the comments that we've lost our drinking water system is a falsehood. The city of Vader is working with a receivership relationship with the county. We'll be getting it back within 2 years. And the fact that there's going to be revenue generated by marijuana is also, I like that last phraseology, is not substantiated by fact. It was the essence of it. So I, for one, would have to harken back to what I heard in the state of California as soon as they legalized medical marijuana. Within a week, what they discovered was within the middle schools and the elementary schools was that packets of medical marijuana suddenly became the hot commodity within the classrooms. So all of what we hear, I think, is going to be incumbent upon the city council to, I hope, listen to fact and reason and then put the finger on the public pulse of the residents of Vader and then vote according to the will of the people, which I think ultimately ought to be the decision that emerges when discussing this ordinance. So that would be my response. Thank you for granting me the time to share that. So with that, I would declare this public hearing closed and thank all of you for coming and sharing your observations.
What time? Give us a time.
At 6:17 p.m. Okay. And with that,
Hold on here, let me stop and restart.
okay.